I suspect that it would probably alter our priorities. My guess. You've heard the expression, good enough for government work. Now, if Grandpa was here, he would know all about that. You know why? He's retired from the government. Yeah. And you know what? These government guys, whew. He would tell you. He was the only one that worked, I can assure you. At least that's what he would say. I don't think this is work. But you know what? It could be. It could be. At least they're doing something to earn a paycheck. Good enough for government work. That's a sarcastic way of saying, don't worry about the details. The joints don't have to fit. The margins, they can be crooked. We don't need to worry about no budget. Isn't that who it feels like we've gotten working for us in the government? Well, golly, what's a budget? We don't have to be perfect. We don't even have to be close. That's government workers for you. Mark it down, God doesn't do government work. God is not a government employee. Everything he does is perfect, but many of us feel like our lives are government work. Ouch. We look inward and we see lots of good and bad mixed together, a whole bunch of loose connections, and a lot of parts that don't seem to work right. That's the way it is in a fallen world. We're stuck with what seems to be government work in this life, but it won't be that way forever, and it doesn't have to be that way now. This isn't government work, family. If we got a few pieces missing, or we've got a few things in our lives that shouldn't be in our lives, that's not how God works. That's not how he works. This is not government work. Okay? Has anybody ever worked on something? Maybe a small engine or a computer, and you've got extra screws left over? Or like taking an engine apart for your lawnmower, and you're trying to get that piston, maybe replacing some piston rings or whatever, You're putting it all back together, and you have like 4 or 5 screws that don't seem to apparently have a hole anywhere for you to put them there. So you're just looking around. Well, so you tape it to the side and hope that helps hold it together. Well, I got to tell you, I've done that before myself. I take a laptop apart. Now, if anybody's ever had a laptop apart, they'll tell you there are probably, a gazillion screws, a lot of screws, and they're all like this big. Like as big as like a grain of rice. So now you've got this laptop apart, you pulled the motherboard out, and you've got a mound of screws like that. And you take it out, all you had to do was take all that apart so you could replace a RAM chip or something stupid like that. And then you go to put it all back together, and you got like 700 or 800 screws left. And you're thinking, man, I don't remember there being that many holes. You took all these screws out, but you don't know where they're going. That's government work, family. I'm not to say I'm a government employee, but that happens. You probably didn't need that many screws anyway. I'm just saying. What I am saying is, we don't need that extra stuff in our lives. You understand what I'm saying? We don't need it. It's not important. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the world's rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual wickedness in high places. I think we've got enough spiritual wickedness in high places. I'm just saying. As we journey through life, we're at war with the world. Guy, I'm telling you, family, when we walk out of this church and you go out there, that's a war. We look at it like we're just trying to hold to our ideals. It's a war. You cannot go into a war like a pixie dust and fairy tales. You can't do that. You need an arsenal. You need a gun. You need a sword. You need a breastplate. You need a shield. This is a war. Now, I would fathom a guess, or phantom a guess, however you prefer it, that if anybody in this room, if we were to be taken over, ISIS was to come up the coast, and everybody's like, we're martial law, we're at war, all of a sudden on our soil, American soil, we've got ISIS coming through and they're wiping us out. They've already taken out New York and they're moving inwards. We'd all go to our houses and we'd crawl up into a corner and cry and rock back and forth. We would fight. This is the same thing. And all we have to do is have a cause. That would be our cause. This is our cause. God is our cause. This is our war. And we're treating it like it's some stinking joke. This is a war, family. Take up your sword. Take up your gun. Take up your shield and fight. This is a war. This is not fun. If we looked at this as a real fight, family, it would change our perspective on how we handle things and how we fight. Some of us in this room need a fight. Some of us in this room need a war. We have to have a purpose. I always fight harder in something that I believe in. Always. It's always been that way. If there's a conflict and I believe in the conflict, I'm all about it. Family, this is what we're talking about. This is a war. This is our conflict. Most everybody in this room would fight hard for a cause they are sold out to. Are we fighting hard for God? Are we sold out to God? Really? Are we? Answer that to yourself. Are we living holy lives? Are we sanctified? Are we set apart for His work? As we make our journey through life, we encounter suffering. When we go through trials, the important thing isn't getting out of them, but what we get out of them. The real tragedy is to waste our suffering by not learning from it and helping others who are hurting. You've heard it said 100 times. We are put through trials to help us grow. What happens, Adam, when we fail that trial? You got to keep doing it. For those of you who think that running away from your trial or crawling in the corner and rocking and crying yourself into a mess will resolve your problem, it might go away for a little while.